Hey, what's up, Professor Owen's C216 MAS class? So I'm going to start off my presentation by talking about the journal article that I thought was the best, or that I liked the most to write about. And I chose the 24/7 Sobriety Project Journal by Kilmer et al. It was published in 2013, and that's the one that I like the most out of the five that I typed about. So we'll talk about this one. We've got our five main points. Okay, the first one is the big problem, right? What is the big problem? What is the big problem, anyways? You know, well, for Kilmer and his associates, his fellow writers and researchers, the big problem for this one was the costs of problem drinkers on the health and safety of society. Right? We've got problem in the big problem, so it really fits for this first point here. Okay. So the big problem is costs of problem drinkers on the health and safety of society, okay? The specific question is, does alcohol testing plus sanctions for positive results, i.e. flunking an alcohol test, coming up positive for having consumed alcohol, reduce problem drinkers and improve public health, okay? Now, at this point, I'll explain that the 24/7 Sobriety Project is a alcohol treatment project put into place in a particular county in South Dakota for managing people who have consumed alcohol in problematic ways that have contributed to them committing crimes. Okay, and there's three areas that were looked at in this study. The first one is DUI arrests. The second one is domestic violence arrests, and the third one is traffic collisions or traffic accidents. Right. So data for this one was provided by crime data. For this study was provided by South Dakota's Attorney General's office. Okay, there's also two, I think, significant statistical, analyses that were used on this crime data. One of them is linear interpolation, and the other one is a Poisson distribution. Okay, so that's what was actually kind of used to crunch the numbers with this data. Okay. The findings, right, our fourth point here is that there has been a significant reduction in repeat arrests for DUIs in domestic violences, okay? And then the traffic collisions may have been reduced for males in a particular age group in this study. Okay, so those are the findings. They're good findings, they're positive, okay? The fifth point, change of understanding, right? How did this research, this writing, change my understanding of the big problem? Point number one, how did it do that? Well, the 24/7 Project is a success, right? It's a success. And I believe, how it changed my understanding was that I believe that it ought to be applied in other counties, in other states, and to be applied in such ways that don't just cover alcohol, but also cover other addictive substances that contribute to crimes, and especially, just like in here, DUIs, domestic violences, and other sort of automobile collisions. Substances that do that include fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, things like that, other sorts of narcotics, okay? So this 24/7 Sobriety Project really is a success, and that's why I like this one the most, because it's a hard science, right? We have the data, we've got the numbers, and they're positive results overall. This program in place, which tests people to see if they've been consuming alcohol and punishes them if they are, it produces positive results, and we have the numbers to prove that. Specifically, in the areas of DUIs and domestic violences. Okay, those are the two areas that we know. Hey, this project is a success. It works. If it's in place, we're very certain that repeat arrests of people that have been arrested previously for DUIs and DVs are going to decline. And that's good. That's exactly what we want. And that's why I like this one so much, because it can be applied in the real world in other ways to reduce crime and to keep the peace, which is the ultimate point of most of this law enforcement. Okay? So let's look at the second one, the journal article that I didn't like so much. Here we are. This is a Rush to Judgment by Tyler. This is a 2017 paper, and it's primarily a psychology paper or social psychology paper. The big problem for this one, our point number one, is public distrust in police. The big problem is public distrust in police. Why does the public distrust the police? Okay, that's the big problem. That's our point number one. Point number two is the specific question. There's two specific questions for this one that I found. The first one is, are people, the public, treated with dignity, courtesy, and respect in their interactions with police and by the police? Okay. The second question, the second specific question is, are police officers' motives trustworthy and benevolent? Trustworthy and benevolent. Now, we remember earlier in this quarter, Professor Owens taught us about this word benevolent. It means having the best interest or benefiting, actually benefiting society and the people in society. That's what benevolent means. And in this application, it means, do the police really want to benefit the people that they're interacting with? Do they really want to benefit people in society? Okay? So that's the second specific question. The data for this article is harvested by the authors, by the author, from psychological and social psychological fields. So it's got a pretty wide range of sources, but the fields that they come from are relatively robust, meaning that they're just from psychological and social psychological fields. Okay. The fourth point, findings. The finding for this article was mostly that procedural justice policies, actual policies that are put in place to enhance or to benefit justice or the fairness between the interactions of people and police, are mostly positive or have no effect. But there aren't really so many procedural justice policies that are put into place that have a negative effect on police interactions with people and on people's perceptions of the police. Okay, so that's one of the findings. Another one of the findings, which is sort of inconclusive, is that for some people, just one good interaction with police can have a positive impact on their perception of police. But for a lot of other people, it seems that not just one interaction is really going to do it for them to change their perception of whether or not they're being treated fairly with police. And it takes, I think, a significant number of interactions over a period of time before that public perception of police officers is changed and turned to be more positive. Okay, so that's another one of the findings. The change of understanding for this one is that my change of understanding, right, of this big problem, public distrust in police, is that procedural justice policies have sort of a double entendre effect, which means that for one, they reduce crime sometimes, and for two, they increase public compliance with police officers. Okay, but I'm not really satisfied with that, because with this one, it's not so much of a hard science as the 24/7 sobriety project, which we could calculate and see, well, there's been a definite reduction in repeat arrests for these specific people that have been in the program and that kind of thing. With this one, it operates mostly with poll responses that can be opinionated. Basically, at some point along the line in this article, people were going around saying, "Hey, how do you feel about the police? Do you feel like they treat you fairly?" and that kind of thing, which, very subjective. Very subjective. Additionally, there is a point in this Tyler article where he admits generalizing. He writes, basically, it's okay to generalize when analyzing this data, that type of thing. Now, I know there are some folks out there that would say, well, never generalize, right? Or almost never generalize. Generalizing is not a good thing. I've heard that in classrooms before. So that's one reason why I didn't like this one so much, is because Tyler was promoting generalizing when I would rather not promote generalizing so much. So we can see that this article is more opinion than fact, which is why I didn't like it as much. Furthermore, when we take this generalizing and these poll responses, which are opinionated, and we apply it to questions and analysis of the procedural justice policies, it's not very objective again. It's too subjective, and I think it's too soft. It's too soft of a science to really be entirely factual. Okay, so that's why I thought this, A Rush to Judgment by Tyler 2017, was not my favorite memo to write about. Now that being said, this one right here, I believe was assigned very early in the quarter. So I didn't have too much selection at that point, but as I've gone, I've made better selections than this one here. Now, additionally, I would want to say psychology and social psychology were really the focus fields of this article right here, and that could be one reason why it wasn't so objective in its analysis. But now I know more about that. So those were the two memos that I wrote about, the 24/7 Sobriety Project, and then a rush to judgment. Okay, so of the two, we can see we've got two ends of the spectrum. I definitely preferred the 24/7 Sobriety Project over Above and Beyond this a rush to judgment. So that's what I'm going to say for this presentation. Thank you for watching.